Thanks for staying with us tonight. A community in the West Rand is in shock following the discovery of the mutilated body of 14-year-old Likhona Fose. This comes as the nation watched in horror the developments around Olerato Mongale, who was killed while on a date. Who can forget Sibusiso Lawrence Ntaka, who brutally murdered his girlfriend Nontobeko Cele in a very horrific way last year. He then took his own life. These are some of the cases that have made headlines, but there are many of such cases. Bonolo Mahlatsi, Senior Student Experience Officer in the Center for Teaching and Learning and a Sociology Master's graduate at the University of the Free State, joins us live now to talk about this femicide issue in the country. Bonolo, good evening to you and thank you so much for your time. We have crime statistics, campaigns like the 16 Days of Activism, Child Protection Week, yet each and every single day there seems to be a story or a case that is being reported. What has gone wrong?
Good evening, Bongiwe. Thank you very much for the opportunity. This is such a sensitive matter. What has gone wrong is that in South Africa, we unfortunately are confronted by conflicting and overlapping social issues to a point where even if you were to try and rank where GBV is placed alongside other social ills, including crime and unemployment, you will find that it is ranked high most likely. But in terms of how it is approached, it almost seems like it's at a relegated level, yet it's such a rife social issue. Together with that, we also have rife inequality in South Africa, and we also in a situation where we've got the pervasive patriarchal culture attitudes that reinforce gender stereotypes together with unequal power relations, and these could be some of the reasons that can be attributed to us seeing the increase in GBV cases in our country.
And I wonder how problematic, in your view, it is, are the comments on social media, for example, that we often see after a woman is reported missing or has been killed. You have questions like, why did she go out with a stranger? She should have taken extra precaution. While others, in some cases, will ask, why did this particular woman simply not just leave, their partner who was abusive at the time? How problematic is this?
This is problematic in a sense that it's, like I've indicated in the piece, it's a literal invisible finger pointing exercise that gives the perpetrators an out, but it does not look at the pain that the individuals would have encountered throughout the process. And it's important that we become reflective in how we comment around such issues, because it's so painful to place blame on the people that are already afflicted. But it's equally important that we also understand what our contribution is in terms of calling out such behavior.
And I wonder, as you make a case out here, when one reads your piece, how much of this also normalizes what we see?
So in terms of social media, I would like to think that it has sort of disillusioned the existence of boundaries in terms of respecting and creating a space of support for people. We almost use social media to mask the serious problems, but instead we use it to pass commentary and as a way to basically absolve ourselves from the situations, to say that, you know what, this is a woman's situation, and we basically create a culture where we say, women should not have, and I think that is not helping in any way, because it just worsens the pain that people already experience.
And you hardly even see in some of these posts, right, that are going to say a woman should have taken extra care, a woman should have done this, a woman should have done that. You hardly see them saying that, well, the perpetrator should not have done X and Y and Z.
You really don't, because it's almost like we as women have to live by social codes that unfortunately men themselves are not told to live by. And if ever women are in a situation where they live out of the social codes, it's easy then for them to be blamed for being victims of situations that they themselves do not anticipate nor even ask for.
And when we observe, for example, there'll be Child Protection Week, there'll be Women's Month. There's also going to be later this year, 16 days of activism. And you now even have a ministry that's also looking at, women and various others, of course, in South Africa. Are these interventions, as some have called them, helping?
To be quite honest, I don't think they have extensively helped, but I believe that there's great opportunity for a multifaceted approach to be taken, where we involve the work of researchers, social thinkers like myself, to assist government and also include civil society in solutioning the violence that women face, because I'd like to think that researchers have done extensive work that also includes recommendations in terms of how such issues or such a societal issue can be addressed, but I think also including the communities that are deeply affected by such encounters need to also be brought to the table, because they will have the opportunity to share their lived experiences. So them sharing their experiences coupled with the policies and interventions that we have within government, and also roping in the skills of social scientists and other researchers, we should be able to solution the problem in the most actionable manner so that we can see the change happen. And I would like to think that together with that, it starts within the individuals ourselves. When we call out such deviant behavior, we speak up against it. And I'd like to think that it requires courage, but I'd like to think that it's also important that we address such behavior even in small engagements, whether you encounter them through a joke or any informal manner. It's all about having teachable moments, which will eventually accumulate to a point where we will then engage in collective behavior to address the issue as ordinary citizens, including researchers as well as government, because I don't think that it is only the role of government to address such a heavy situation that continues to affect our society.
And especially because when you think about the role as well of communities and families, it becomes quite critical. And I wonder, Bonolo, we are not short in this country of protests, of activists, of women that have taken to the streets, women that are speaking in various sectors and corners where they are to try and correct some of the perceptions and the behaviors. But are those that these messages are intended for listening?
It's quite tricky to say yes confidently, but I think the problem then becomes those who learn about them, but then they become silent. So to avoid that situation where we've got this passive yet active engagement, and active in a sense that we only want to pass social media commentary, it's important that individuals go through some form of social consciousness, and it's also important that people be conscientized through education what their role is in society. And what this will essentially help with, especially in the aspect of social consciousness, is that people will develop a sense of understanding of their role in society, and also a sense of responsibility and concern, and know when and how to speak against social problems that we are faced with.
Yeah, and I suppose it goes a long way as well to ensure that we don't only see activism on social media, but we see it even in schools and everywhere else where it's needed.
That is true, and that is why I emphasize the importance of education. And when I mention education, it doesn't necessarily have to be the conventional way where you teach people about what it is. It's also important that we create spaces that foster support and safe environments to allow people to engage within each other or among each other, to understand the situations that they are faced with. And in those moments, there will be an exchange of knowledge and experiences, and it would be in such spaces that we co-create solutions that will help us address the issue of GBV in our country.
Bonolo, appreciate your time this evening speaking to us on such an important subject. That was Bonolo Mahlatsi, Senior Student Experience Officer in the Center for Teaching and Learning, and a Sociology Master's graduate at the University of the Free State.